Hey, what's going on, fellow history buffs? Wanted to get another video out to you that's going to go over the summary of the Vietnam War in its entirety, going over the main points, how it started and what occurred, and what was the final conclusion of the war. So, let's dive into it. Have you ever heard about the war that divided the United States in the middle of the last century? This war, which lasted almost 20 years, ended negatively for the United States and led to political divisions in the government. In today's video, we will look at the main events of the Vietnam War. The start of the Vietnam War dates back to 1954 with the Geneva Accords. According to the agreement, Vietnam will be divided into both north and southern parts along the 17th parallel, and it is planned to unite them again after 2 years. However, uniting the country was no easy task. Because North Vietnam was ruled by Hochiminh government, which was a supporter of the communist movement, while the administration of South Vietnam was in the hands of Emperor Bao Day, who was inclined more to capitalism. In turn, North Vietnam was supported by the communist countries, that is, like China and the Soviet Union. South Vietnam was supported by the capitalist countries of the United States and its allies. In short, this military conflict was part of the quote-unquote Cold War in Southeast Asia. Fearing the spread of communism in Southeast Asia, the United States did not want Vietnam to fall into the hands of the communists. Therefore, the Americans went to go help South Vietnam as much as possible in the political, material, and military spheres. At the beginning of August 1964, a small conflict took place between the US and North Vietnamese ships in the Gulf of Tonkin. In the end, it was doubted whether it was a collision or not. But this unconfirmed conflict was a good excuse for the US government to now mobilize its military forces to be deployed in South Vietnam. Their mission was to fight the communists in the north. Initially, about 30,000 US soldiers with modern weapons would be sent to war. However, it was not easy for the well-armed Americans in the unfamiliar fields and terrain of Vietnam. Because the North Vietnamese were fighting on their land, they would not surrender so easily. They waged a full-scale guerrilla warfare against the US military. In this work, vast jungles and small tunnels were very useful for them, especially for the guerrilla forces that were called the Viet Cong. They were the real headache for the US and South Vietnamese soldiers. Therefore, reinforcements from America would begin to arrive in order to aid the ongoing war effort. By the end of the war, the number of soldiers from the United States sent to Vietnam would reach over 330,000. Fighting in difficult conditions, the American soldiers used brutal methods that are harmful to humanity in order to fight the guerrilla warfare and the Viet Cong. They used methods of setting fire to entire villages, razing populated areas, and chemically poisoning large vastas of terrain. During the war, the US Air Force had used 8 million tons of bombs. Nevertheless, the resistance of the North Vietnamese did not decrease, but on the contrary. Especially on the eve of the Vietnamese New Year in 1968, the Northerners in the Viet Cong launched a large-scale open attack. During the offensive, 85,000 troops simultaneously hit 5 major cities and more than 10 military facilities in South Vietnam. As a result, there were many casualties amongst the South Vietnamese and the US military. The comprehensive attack would have been the turning point of the war. Millions of US citizens protested and demanded an end to the military operations in Vietnam. These anti-war demonstrations were a large mass protest in American history. And finally, on January 27, 1963, representatives of North Vietnam and the United States, along with South Vietnam, signed a peace agreement in Paris. According to the agreement, US troops must withdraw from the territory of Vietnam within 2 months. In addition, the 17th parallel will remain the dividing line until the country is reunited in a peaceful way. From this day, the American soldiers who were not able to reach their goal and were broken in spirit started to return to their countries. On March 29, 1973, the last American military unit would leave Vietnam. However, this does not stop the war between the two Vietnamese countries. In April 1975, the North Vietnam launched another major offensive. and as a result of this attack, Saigon, the capital of South Vietnam, was occupied. The following year, the two Vietnams were then united under a communist government. 58,000 Americans, 250,000 South Vietnamese, and about 1 million North Vietnamese soldiers died in one of the most terrible wars in world history. The saddest thing is that in this military conflict, over 2 million civilians lost their lives. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and let us know in the comments what you think of this video. We'd like to hear from you, and we want to hear your feedback on our content and what we can do better for future videos. If you are interested in continuing to watch this type of content, don't forget to subscribe for more historical content, and we will see you in the next one.